G'day Internet, my name is Lorenzo Di-Mauro Hayes, and I thought this video was going to be poorly timed. Thankfully, Fremantle-Carlton changed that for me, because today I want to be discussing something that I have really wanted to be talking about for a while now, and that is a video discussing what I would do if I was in charge of a sporting organisation hoping to improve the umpiring. Yes, today's video is on the umpiring, a very touchy subject. Well, basically every weekend, for those of us who watch the sports, something always is going on in terms of some sort of controversy. The entirety of the 2024 AFL season seems to have really started with every single terrible or controversial decision. I can't work out whether it's actually been worse or the platform formerly, and in a very real sense, still currently called Twitter, is telling me it's worse. I honestly think it's probably both. It's maybe been a fraction worse, or there's been a fraction more errors, but it's probably not quite as bad as the old Twitter sphere would tell me. But today I am not complaining as much, because today I am looking to fix the umpiring problems, except I'm not really, because the reality is our umpires, they aren't too bad. There is a Twitter account and website, and now they've got an account on Instagram called Umpire Scorecards, and it says what it does on the tin, doesn't it? They grade umpires, that's home plate umpires, in baseball. Over their entire run, which hasn't been too long at this point, there's only been one perfect game, that was in a World Series game, in fact, but what it does show is that your average game, well, it's going to be somewhere in around the 90% range, and that is something that's very consistent across other sports. I know that's certainly true for AFL umpires. They usually go at about 90% accuracy. So why is it that we're always having these conversations? Well, there's a few people exaggerating, saying they're all so terrible. If I had this sort of record, I would never keep my job. 90% accuracy is clearly a high bar for some people. They have very high standards of what counts as deserving of a job. But anyway, the umpiring really isn't that bad, but the problem that we do get, and certainly the perception of umpiring is bad, is the howler. Now, howlers don't happen too often unless you're Joel Wilson or Steve Buckner, but these are the ones that should not be happening. And the reality is that we really shouldn't be having a situation where me at home toggling back and forth on the remote has better angles and a better way to decipher what happened and whether or not a free kick, penalty, whatever it's called in the sport, should be awarded or not, whether a score should count or not, whether more information should be given to the viewer at home rather than the people in the actual stands or people on the ground that are actually umpiring these sort of events. So today I am going to provide my solution, but first we need to talk a little bit about how exactly the current system works. Now, many sports have developed this over numerous years now. I think the NFL was among the first with their instant replay. It started, then it got rid of, then it came back in form of coaches' challenges. There are many different variations around the world, but a lot of them pertain to some sort of challenge system where the captain or the coach can basically review a decision at any time. And in fact, in the AFL, over the last week, a captain challenge has been on the discussion boards. This is an absolutely awful idea. Here is why. The moment you start limiting, you trying to work out what does and what doesn't count, I guarantee you, there will be a controversial, incorrect decision in a completely other field, and there'll be no way to challenge that, even though we can all tell straight away, yeah, no, that was the wrong decision. Case in point, 2018 NFC Championship game, the blatant pass interference / helmet-to-helmet contact, penalty not called, Sean Payton losing his mind, Saints end up losing that game in overtime, helped by the fact that Breeze threw a typical interception, typical bad plays he did quite a few times towards the later end of his career when those Saints were making those playoff runs but not getting into the Super Bowl. Those sorts of decisions do tend to spark change, and the NFL end up doing a one-year trial on pass interference, and then they end up getting rid of the coach's challenge or the booth's ability to call pass interference. So more or less we're back to where we started. So if that play happened today, that would have been fine. But also that play happened in the last 2 minutes, so the coach wouldn't have even possibly been able to challenge. Only the booth in the last 2 minutes of a half, and actually in overtime as well, can actually challenge. There's no coaches' challenges in those time frames. The moment you start limiting that stuff, it's going to cause problems. Another case in point, if you run out of decisions, or chances to appeal, the bad decisions are going to go against you. Again, if the whole point of this is to stop the howler, why would you allow a system that still gives a great possibility of the howler? Another case in point, 2019 Headingley Test match. Speaking of Joel Wilson, that terrible non-LBW decision plumb in front by Nathan Lyon's delivery there to Ben Stokes, given not out, Australia would have had the chance to review and win the match if they hadn't already lost their review on a different LBW decision a few moments earlier. And the talking point is always, oh, well, they should have, it was their fault, they shouldn't have used that review. But the whole point of the system, the whole point of the technology, we have ball tracker, we have all these things in cricket, for example. It's there to prevent these sort of decisions, and they're still happening. The moment you start limiting this stuff, this is where the problems get. But let me just take a pause for a moment, and let me just explain something to those who are, online too much. Not everything is about you, and not everything is a conspiracy. These umpires are human beings, and no matter how much technology we put in, even my solution, which we'll get to in a moment, it's going to be run by humans, and humans, they're going to make mistakes. Just think about the worst decision you've ever made. Not the worst in front of people or that people know of, just the worst decision. I bet people don't know about that one. And how about if you made that sort of level of decision or that level of error in front of thousands in attendance and millions watching around the world? Yep, it's not a comfortable place to be in. And certainly here in Australia, I'm sure it is true in other countries as well. We have to be cracking down, we have to be preventing any sort of abuse towards umpires when it comes to either people from the grandstands and certainly from players and coaches on the actual field. And I think this is something that I really believe we should all be getting behind, no matter how terrible a decision is. Don't get me wrong, if they didn't make that terrible decision, they wouldn't have got abused. That's not the whole point, you idiots. Not everything is a conspiracy. I feel like after every AFL game, even times when teams win, their fans are like, oh, they gave the umpires the advantage, and they still somehow lost. I mean, does everything have to be a conspiracy? What happened to the old, we didn't take our chances, we weren't good enough in this situation, we made too many mistakes, they were just the better team, we were lucky to even be as close as we were? What happened to those? Can we just get back to those good old days? Or does everything have to be a bloody conspiracy? Does it always have to be us against them? It's the umpires against us. Because if that is, they're doing a very good job, given it seems to be the umpires against us in every single game. And, well, that is ensuring very, very competitive sport at the moment. So if that is the truth, I do have to tip off my cap to the leagues for doing that, and for the keyboard warriors for getting themselves into such a tangle. They were able to find some sort of answer in there, so congratulations to you. But nevertheless, umpire abuse is a horrible thing and it must stop, and I would encourage people to do that using the hashtag umpires are people too. And this is actually true. If you actually go onto Twitter and you search for umpires people too, but you switch around the R and the I, i.e. you incorrectly spell umpires, there is only one person who's used that hashtag. Only one person was stupid enough to make that sort of error when tweeting hashtag umpires are people too, to misspell umpires. It was me. Alright, anyway, getting away from that, it's time for a solution. Now we know, as I've already said, the Coaches Challenge is a terrible idea. And look, maybe I'm not the best person to be suggesting this, though I have worked for a number of years now as an umpire in field hockey and have always had an interest in rules. So maybe I am, but I understand if you don't think so. I mean, look, for example, here is me walking into my high school Year 12 formal last year. That is the face of a boy looking into his future, 30 years from now, looking at all those tweets, the 1,000th Twitter notification telling me I'm some white privileged piece of crap, and going, they have a point. But getting back to the point, here is my solution. Now, it's only a two-parter, but it's going to be more extensive than that depending on the sport. But here is my solution. Number one, you actually have to invest in the technology. Nothing half-hearted, nothing, oh, maybe we will, maybe we won't. Not like what the AFL's done, where every single time we go to a goal review, it's at 10 frames per second. No, we are actually going to invest in the technology. It's going to depend on the sport, obviously, for what they need. We're going to invest in good camera angles. We're going to invest in any additional technology, whether it be hotspot or using sound, whatever it may be. We are going to invest in all that technology. We're talking organizations that make billions of dollars from their broadcast rights alone. They should have the capacity to be able to pay for top quality cameras and top quality angles and any additional elements they may need. And number 2, here is the second part of this only 2-part plan. There will be no limit on when this can be used, but the players or the coaches or anyone, no one else will be able to call for it to be used, other than 2 people, or 2 groups of people depending on the sport. The person who are officiating, or the people officiating, umpiring the game on the ground, and the people upstairs. That is it. Why only those 2? Because then it'll only be used when it needs to be used, when the on-field officials are not sure, not quite right. Hey, we're going to chuck this upstairs, and if the people upstairs realise a terrible error, they can step in, stop the play, alert the on-field officials, maybe show them some replays, and then we can assess the situation. Because the common argument against these sort of things is that it slows down the game. I have 2 rebuttals to this. One, who cares if it slows down the game? You cannot complain about umpiring if all you're going to do is complain. You can complain as much as you like, as long as you provide some sort of solution. I see all the time, it's basically all these people whinging. They've clearly got no idea how you would actually fix it. I'm not here for that. I'm not here to just complain about stuff. I'm here to fix it. That's the whole point of the Case 4 series. It was 7 episodes in now, and it's not getting many views, to be fair. That's probably actually a good thing to really go back and watch the other ones. They're not that good. But I'm here to actually solve issues, and I have a solution here. Invest in the technology, and then, only when it is needed, in the view of the umpires on the field and the umpires upstairs. And the other important key thing here I will note is I want to hear the communication between the on-field and off-field people for the viewers at home, so we're truly understanding of what exactly is going on and what exactly is happening. Because I don't think we see this enough. Now, this system, as far as I can tell, and I'll be completely honest with you, I haven't done the fullest of research on this, but this is more or less rugby union's TMO system. This is basically how it works. Whenever the on-field official or whenever the TMO feels like they need to intervene, they will. They'll step through the process. You can hear the on-field official and the TMO talking about it and getting to a decision. This is a brilliant system. Now, rugby union is a much slower game, so they can really take their time with this one, but they've invested in the technology. There aren't many TMO explained videos on YouTube because everyone just knows this is how the system works, and that is an idea, and that is an example that I think should be absolutely replicated by a bunch of different organizations. Forget about the challenges, forget about anything else, forget about limiting it. Everything is fair game. Literally everything is fair game. But we're only going to look at it if and when it is needed. I can't really see the system failing. I'm sure there's some sort of idea or something else. The really only problem with this, or the only impediment to it, might be money. But again, billions of dollars in the bank. How much do these organizations care about making sure we get to the correct decisions? How much do these organizations care about their public perception? Because that is a big one as well. Don't forget, the only reason we're having this discussion is because the public perception is the umpires bad, even though, again, about 90%. They're not too shabby, particularly considering the circumstances. So that's all I've got, just about. I've got not much space on this, fine, so I really should wrap it up. So that's it. That's how you solve the Howler crisis, the umpiring crisis. It will ensure that we will have a much better system. We will ensure much more respect for umpires, because we will actually be able to hear their thought process going through this as well. There will be mistakes, because we are talking human beings here. But this should prevent the Howler. It's pretty much common sense in my view. I can't really see anything against it. Invest in the technology. The sporting organisation has the cash to do that, and then ensure that whenever it is needed, in the view of either the people on the ground or the people with the technology, that it should be used for the benefit of the sport and its public perception. Thank you so much for watching this, the Case 4 series. I'll see you very shortly with a video on the great Red Rum.